going to introduce you. So, Susana, thank you for joining us. Susana specializes in the intersectional integration of critical race, dignified care, and transformative mind-body practices within community settings. She currently provides anti-carceral mental health therapy through her practice, Healed Together. Building and growing Healed Together's anti-carceral care collective and organizes with community alternatives to policing in South Central Los Angeles, where she also lives, loves, and works. Susana dedicates her life to healing as a central component for justice, resistance, and activism. So thank you, Susana, for joining us.
Thank you very much. And nope. Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Perfect. And then let me go to yep. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Claudia, for the introduction, and thank you so much for everyone who is still here. I know it's a long day. And just so grateful to every single person who has shared, everyone who has shared, and I'm really gathering that a weaving and a theme throughout all our shares today is about centering connection as actually the conditions that are life-giving for what we're all seeking, whether that connection is through the body, through plants, through medicine, through the land. And I'll be sharing more about relationships as another life-giving condition that is also very messy because we are so human in such a violent world. And so I wanted to invite us that throughout my presentation, I'm a collective invitation for all of us to be aware of our body, our nervous system, even just noticing how you're doing with all the information that you've taken in so far. Anything that you're thinking about, whether it's something you have to get to after this or that you have been holding, because we're all holding so much. So I invite you throughout the presentation, I'll invite you into gentle body and imagination practices, breathing, and maybe some writing, drawing, and being curious. But first, we'll ground together to root the work that I'll share a little bit. So I want to first tell you who I'm accountable to and how I'm showing up. I'm accountable to those that love me and that have loved me, to my daughter, and to all the children in my life, to my partner who I've reconstructed the meaning of home, both in my body and a literal space for the last 18 years. And all those who love me over and over in my mess. The carcerality of this world is so much. And so I'm also accountable to all the folks I've supported and held pain and possibilities with. I'm also accountable to those that have transitioned, that are different shapes and different dimensions. So I'm holding and I'm accountable to the pain and love of imperfect ancestors. And they are guiding to me. And that pain and that love is guiding to me. And so I invite you to gently to recognize your hands in this moment, and to maybe just begin to just notice your heart, and to bring your hand to your heart or to your stomach, just to the core of you. And I want us to collectively feel into who are you accountable to? Why do you do what you do? Who do you do it for? Who has loved you? Who has loved and cared for those that care for you? And I want you to just notice any sensations, any temperatures, any memories, any colors, any textures, and just stay curious. We're inviting our childhood selves and just staying curious. Who has loved us even after we mess up? over and over. Who has loved you? Who has loved us in the fullness of our humanity? Who has extended you dignity? And who has held pain with you? And what parts of you, what behaviors, patterns need to be put to rest, need to be composted for new life and new possibilities? And so I invite you, you can stay here. You can take a deep breath with this. And I'm going to invite us all to name, if you want, energetically or through the chat. Please tell us who you're holding with today, who you're accountable to, and name any ancestors that you're bringing with you today. And just take a moment to be with that. Melanie Natividad presente. This is Melanie Natividad on the picture. She is a dear family member that we lost to suicide in 2019. So any grieving, anyone that you're grieving, we want to just extend that dignity to the pain and the people in pain, which is all of us. And so feel free throughout to share anyone or just be with the feeling. And this picture is my baby and my partner to the right of Melanie. They hold me deeply and dearly every day. Oh. It's not letting me change.
And if you move your mouse to the bottom left, maybe there's is there something like popping up?
No, I was able to just move it before. I'm sorry, everyone. Take a moment. I'm seen holding my brother who was institutionalized and lost last year to substances. And his twin brother was also institutionalized and struggling with depression and addiction. Thank you. Thank you. I come from many things. I come from many people in my lineage whose homes became very unsafe, or as Worcestershire says, when home becomes the mouth of a shark. People don't just leave their bodies or don't just leave their homes or their communities. There are very deep generational histories and reasons. I come from messy and imperfect humans. I come from complex relationships and deep love and pain. This is my grandmother, Victoria Duarte, on the bottom, and on the top is my mother, Graciela Parras. My grandmother, her and her family were forced to migrate from their first home in Las Cuevas in Pachalum in Guatemala. In 1969, they landed in the capital city of Guatemala, which was very traumatizing. My mom was 13 when she moved from Las Cuevas to Guatemala City, leaving endless imprints of pain and trauma in her body. My grandma, again, was forced to migrate here to the U.S., to Los Angeles in 1981. And before that, they had experienced the earthquake in Guatemala in 1976 that destabilized so many. She also withstood the death of her husband, my grandfather, Pedro Soto, in 1981. And my mom was 18 years old when she came here, and she didn't get to see her dad after that. And my grandma, Victoria, died in May 20th, 2012. My mother is still living with my father in Lancaster, California. And so I share this because we all carry the unspoken, the hidden, and the layered traumas of our hurt elders and their hurt elders. And so what we individually carry is not all ours. And so I wonder, where does the immense pain of loss go that is created by this world, by capitalism, by forced migration, by displacement, over and over and over. And so again, I invite us into a collective practice to come back to your hands. I love grandma hands. They are soothing. They're one of the most soothing things. And so I began to really just be with my hands more recently. And so I want to invite us to recognize our hands. And so I just look at them. If you just literally want to put them up in your face, if you want to gently just put them on your lap or have them touch any part of you. These are things that, when done collectively, we can really begin to elicit different feelings in our nervous systems and through our body. Things that don't have words. And so as you are touching your hands, as you are being with your hands, I want you to think about who has helped you to grow. Who has held you? Who has hugged you? What pain have your hands held? And can you see in your hands, can you see your hands as a child? Not as they are right now. Can you see anyone in your lineage, in your community, in your family, in your hands? Whether they have caused pain or love, because we understand that we are complex beings, as Martha was saying. Whose hands do your hands resemble? And again, take a breath and take a moment to just notice in your body, in your spirit, what stories are running through your head, what is happening in your heart as we breathe in our hands and all the relations and histories that hold you and your loved ones. And these are my mother-in-law's hands. She is my other mother. And she loves to grow. She medicine plants are her joy. And so these are habaneros that she grew. And I love getting habaneros from her. So thank you. So just come back to your hands if you need to throughout. And notice your hands even after we end today. Where are we allowed to exist fully? The reality of this world is that it crushes. I think that's clear. I think that those of us that are in this space and couldn't be in this space understand in many ways how the structures of capitalism, of patriarchy, really impede our collective healing and really dim our cultural cores. It dims our light. It really removes us, and it makes us turn away from ourselves and each other. And we have to turn away in order to survive. When we think about our parents and our elders and all the folks in our lives who are deeply hurt, we understand that this is protective and it happens over time. This world weighs heavy on us, and we learn to hide in a myriad of ways, myself included. The layers of protection we walk around with are endless. They're suffocating, they're isolating, they're shameful. We learn how to live in fragments and pieces of ourselves. We learn to abandon parts of us that have not been valued, recognized, or cared for so long. These are also very protective and wise responses. And in a world where we come to expect punishment that is carceral, that is punishing, we need nothing but care and understanding. And we learn how to punish ourselves when we need care, dignity, and understanding. And also can be baffled and disoriented when the punishment doesn't come. So I wanted to share this note that my daughter wrote to me. Childhood and being a parent has really returned me to a lot of parts of me that I had forgotten. And so how are we allowed to respond when we're in rage and pain? Because those are very okay feelings and realities. And where does the rage and pain that can't be released go? And so I find it really, really important to create really in my relationships, because wherever I go, I bring myself with me and those that I love, that the pain has to be first acknowledged. And so my daughter wrote me this note not so long ago. And it just reminded me of how many times I have felt like I don't belong, and that people don't like me or see me or value me or welcome me. And so how can we use our relationships, whether it's to the land, to the kids, to the plants, to the work, to whatever is in your context, as containers to help hold and then process the immensity of our pain. A little bit more about myself. In 2018, many conditions coalesced in my life that made it so I had to leave my job. And at that point, I had been a school social worker for 10 years. And I was quickly understanding by that point that embedded in all our care systems, including the ones that I was holding and working for, are systems that embedded in them is fear and punishment. If students, if families, if people don't comply with the services that a service provider offers, those services can be cut. And so we cycle through another carceral system that actually says it's caring and that it's providing care. And so we're made to feel as service providers that we should do more with little or no support, like many of us as educators too, and really across professions and spaces of providing care services to people. And so I really was rooted in or affirmed in this, that we all need care and help, but that's not existent in carceral systems, like social work, my profession. I am and was a cop in a cardigan. Social workers are cops in cardigans. And I didn't know fully at the time how my job in this profession was killing me. Deep impacts on my health, my well-being, and my relationships. And we've all gotten to that point. We've gotten there, we'll cycle through there again, because we understand that this is structural. It was the year before, also in 2018, that our dear family member, Melanie Natividad, would transition into the ancestor world. The pain was crushing her. I was also simultaneously being called back home, to my literal home, also to the home in my body home. I'd really gotten away from myself. And I was being called to sit with my stories of pain and joy, my history and those of my family and ancestors. To come back to myself meant to learn again how to be present to my humanity and to my life in a world that doesn't value life, unless it can be exploited, criminalized, or oppressed. And so by that time, having worked in some of the most carceral institutions, which included schools, hospitals, and nonprofits, other social service providers, I was at a crossroads, and my partner quickly advocated for me to think about, along with other friends, of what we can create outside. And so in 2018, Healed Together, as a private practice, emerged into the world. Yes, it's a private practice, but it was really born out of a deep yearning to create community models of healing using anti-racist and anti-carceral mental health practices. Heal Together is a call to sit with our stories of generational pain and joy, and to nurture our own blueprints of wellness. Reconnecting to ourselves as a radical act. And however that comes for you, right, that has to be authentic within your context. We've shared with you what this looks like in our context, Martha, Bernice, and me. Heal Together invites people to return to their light and radiate their power by highlighting the way our cultural cores are dimmed in a racist, capitalistic, patriarchal world that conditions our silence. And, you know, it's been 4 years, and over these 4 years, we've realized that we've needed to expand, because that actually is very natural, is that we can't stay the same. We shape forms, and we shift into different shapes. And so out of this was born Healed Together's Anti-Carceral Care Collective. We are made, and this collective, this is our, for lack of a better term, just kind of our statement of who we are. We are made up of people who have grown and worked in traumatic and oppressive environments. So we don't just self-identify as therapists or mental health folks. We are made up of people who are very multidimensional and belong to different spheres. We're also people who have harmed and been harmed over generations. Whose families and communities have also been hurt systematically. And so as this collective, we imagine, we build and grow in solidarity with liberation, with collective care, and dignified healing at the center. Let me go back here. I also wanted to mention that we're, part of what we're learning to name and continue to name, because we're growing, nothing is set, is that the collective really, and the events or the spaces that we've offered, it really is an offering to really anyone who's grieving, anyone at the forefront of care, anyone who is systems impacted or has a connection to systems impacted people. This is also a space and an imagining of anyone who needs safe space to connect in ways that are trauma-informed, that are justice-oriented, that are anti-carceral. Really for anyone who has experienced suffering, pain, and turmoil as a consequence of systematic and generational violence and exclusion. And then we also create, what we create and who we are also is anyone who hopes, dreams, and builds towards different worlds rooted in joy, accountability, and expansive care. And so we came, actually, I'm going to tell you more in this next one. So where do we turn when we are faced with the grave limitations of a profession, of a system, of our bodies, and of structures that breed exploitation and pain? And so I'm always very interested in connecting with folks and where in your corner of the world can you create? And that creation is so expansive. This is ours, and this is what we wanted to share with you all today. And to me, it's really about how can we create life-giving conditions right where we are, and where you are in your life, emotionally, spiritually, physically, psychologically, all the things. And so our collective emerged this year in 2022 by way of this dialogue series, but our connections to each other are rooted far before 2022. And like I said, we are people who believe in justice and dignified healing. We're also a group of people, and we continue to invite people. So you all are invited into this space. Whoever needs it, who is interested, we're dedicated to unlearning, to mapping, and transforming carceral oppressive conditions within us and between us. And it's really as a way to dismantle and build healing, accountable, just worlds, where this dignified healing care, or the dignified care, is a pathway to collective liberation. And so this series was called Mental Health to Liberation series, and we've been able to offer 3 so far. And I'm just now looking at the chat, so thank you. I'm just taking a moment, so I invite us to take a moment. I'll continue, and I'm just going back. Thank you, folks, for sharing who you're accountable to and ancestors. And it's beautiful to hear folks say they see they see their hands in their sons, and Lucha, I see my hands in my sons, and I see my mother's hand in mine. Baby amos, yes. Yes, we got to recognize and welcome those discomforts and allow the kid to have their voice empowered in the place that is hers. Yes.
Soy propio. Vaya Dios, compa.
Thank you. Folks have to be brave as they are trained and dare to push against, as we mentioned earlier, to refuse these indoctrinations that are carceral and punitive, especially when folks in our communities need grace, dignity, care, and patience. Yes, they are connected. Thank you. I appreciate Alejandro sharing the Eventbrite's. You're welcome to follow the event descriptions. I'll share just highlights just with the time that we have. But the first dialogue was exploring the lived realities of navigating suicidal ideation and autonomous transitions, pain, grief, and loss. And people who attended felt supported as we held a space to imagine and build dignified care together. We were free to imagine and be curious about what a healing-centered community can look like in the face of people wanting to not be here and extending dignity to those choices. And also holding the complexities, the messiness, things that we don't know and can't know in this space. And as I had mentioned earlier, our family member Melanie, has been really guiding. And so Melanie and I, when we met at 17, we went on a journey to create spaces as allies. We would call ourselves that time. They identified as a queer persona, and I as a heterosexual persona. And so we went on a journey in that. And so I'm just so grateful because she continues to show up. So we continue to create from where she is and from where I am. And so that's how I understand death in relationship to life, is that just like any relationship, a friendship, a family member, it just has to change sometimes, and it's really hard. And so this space really held, was really dynamic and really loving, and we just sat with so much vulnerability in this event. And care and dignity for the living, for ourselves while we're grieving the systems and conditions that take the lives of so many ancestors. So that really meant a lot, and we had a really amazing turnout. The second event in the middle was My Job is Killing Me, Caring for Our Pain Together. Connected to what I shared, I come across endless people across professions, across practices that are just beyond their bodies' capacities and limitations, and feel so alone and so isolated. So this one was a virtual support circle where we bared witness to what weighs on us, and how we can hold each other to sustaining collective well-being. And so we reflected together as a way to connect and regenerate together. And some of the reflections that came out of there were things like people were affirmed at the end of our time together that someone said, I am doing enough. I do not have to carry the guilt of a system that has failed us when I am doing my part. I shape change. I exist in relation to others and this earth. I care for myself. We care for each other, which I think is a huge theme of all of our presentations today. And someone else said, when I don't betray myself more, people can feel safe. And how much we have to unlearn in our own body, as Jessa was reminding us at the beginning, really came through. I was really grateful for that space. Our third one and our latest one was Childhood is the Realest Hood, Caring for Our Children Together. This was a zine making workshop that centered giving the children in our lives, including our inner child selves, a voice, with the hopes, with the intention to help build and repair relationships. And so we affirm that when something is shareable, it's bearable. In shame, we are deeply disconnected to ourselves and to those around us. But what happens when we can, bring that humanity and just show it and have people bear witness to it with so much care. And so that was really beautiful to call on our inner children, and also to remember, how do we connect to the children in our life? It's doing that thing again. Sorry, I'm not sure why it's doing this, but I'm just going to start it again. And so, thinking about, that for me, children in my life, the child in my life, and the child that I get to know, and the inner child of even my mom, who she was as a child, how she experienced the world. I'm getting to know my partner's inner children. And so I'm just constantly reminded of the power of childhood. And so I've really, in my community, have set out to connect to people that share and are aligned in values. Because to me, I think it's very harmful, and it's something I've learned so much, with my partner. It's really harmful to see only see professional support as legitimate. And so how can we cultivate spaces inside of us and around us that center the collective's life experiences, the stories in our bodies that we carry, that center the children and all our relationships in the life and death cycles? And that, that all of this is extremely difficult. And so we cannot do this by ourselves. And even when I've tried to do this by myself, I'm quickly reminded that it is possible, but it's not sustainable. And so how are you creating, and what have you created in your homes, in your spaces of work, not for the institutions, not for the systems, but an ecosystem of care. And that may be through all the things that are important to you. And we're reminded by the birth movement, and as Berenice was reminding us and sharing that, or what I'm reminded of, and that is that our bodies already know what to do, or as the birth movement reminds us, our bodies already know how to give birth. So I really want to extend that to all of us, and that just not just like bringing children to the world, but really about the possibilities. What possibilities are we birthing? What dreams, what healthier homes in our bodies and our relationships can we collectively birth and bring to fruition? And we all have a part in this. And we don't need professionals or more. We don't need more professionals or more mental health. We need to repair with each other, to remember what our gifts, our light, and what cultural cores have been dimmed in a racist, capitalistic, patriarchal world that conditions our silence. And so, no, you don't need me as a social worker, as a therapist. I value the gifts that I've been able to cultivate, but this is not that I'm not creating more professional circles. I want to create, very similarly to what Marta is creating in their neck of the woods. And so with the time that we have, I just wanted to offer this. Y'all are welcome to do it in this moment and take a few minutes. You're also welcome to take this and maybe do it with yourself afterwards. You can do it with your kids. You can do it with your partner. Do it with your friends. But I want to invite you. It's a way of kind of connecting to our senses and our hands to create when accessible. And so you would just take a piece of paper that I had, just fold it in half, and then in another half, and we create 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can copy the prompts. And if it's not too clear on the PowerPoint, I wrote them here in the slide. And you can respond to them with words. You can respond to them with drawings. You can respond to them with your energetic presence, with your mind and your heart, whatever feels comfortable. But I would just invite you in this moment to even, if there's one prompt that you're landing on or anything that calls you, what are the parts of you that have been silenced or are silenced? What did you remember and reconnect to today in this time? Not just in what I presented, just throughout this time that we've been together. What do we need? What do you need to live with dignity and die with dignity? And what are your sources of care, dignity, and nurture? And in that, we can connect to what these things smell like. What does it smell like when we live in dignity? Does it smell like when I'm being cared for and feel the nurture? What does it taste like? What does it sound like? What does it sound like inside of me when I'm silenced or when I'm silencing myself? How does it sound or look or feel or taste when I reconnect to the thing or to the things that bring me back? And so this is all in the folder. I'm just going to change it. So, oh my God, is it? Oh, no. And so to close, we wanna close how we opened, with our hands. This is a beautiful garden space that we were collaborating with in South Central Little Green Acres. Unfortunately, we had to stop our collaboration because values didn't align. But remembering just in the body what it felt like to be in that space. And so we're trying to recreate another space for kids. So thank you, Martha. I'm going to reach out to you. So I'm remembering how to birth and create spaces that allow us to grieve. So take a moment to hold the center of life in your hands, your heart, your breath. Take another deep breath with so much dignity and care. Be your size if you need to become smaller in this moment because you're holding a lot of pain in your back. If you need to just stretch it out a little bit and look around in your space. And just hold your hands with you. And hold yourself in your hands. And hold your existence. And this brain that holds so much, endless chatter, endless conversations, endless to-do lists. And hold your legs, feel into your legs, the trunk as if we're a tree. And root your feet into the ground. And feel free to stay in touch. We're always looking to grow and build more community across different spaces, work, and experiences. We would love to have you join and share amongst colleagues, comrades, and friends. And we meet every month. And so our next gathering it's virtual, October 23rd. It's a Sunday and it's in the evening time from about 6 to 7:30. I also included a resource list in the folder. It's a live document. So actually the intention is for y'all to add to. And so we created collectively. So that list doesn't even touch like the immensity of resources out there. But also there's a Google form in there that if you are interested in joining our collective or just want to come and check it out, there's a Google form there that would help us. And thank you so much. Appreciate you all and stay close to those hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Susana. I just want to say thank you for creating this space for us to connect, with our hands. I love the way that you really brought us to connect with them, to connect with our memory, to connect with our experiences, to connect with like every part, that is there, even the messy parts, So thank you so much for creating this space. And I want to take some time to just look at the chat and also invite anyone who wants to turn on their mic and maybe share some reflections, any questions or comments, while I take a look at the chat here. So a lot of affirmations, a lot of the things that you shared resonate with a lot of us here. Like carrying the systemic failures as our own, definitely taking the time to release that, to say, hey man, like that's not mine anymore. And making space for that joy and other forms of meaningful connections, right, with family and friends and community. A lot of thank yous. Thank you, Susana. We're just immensely grateful with everything that you've shared, and very powerful work that you're all doing. Okay. I'm just, seeing if anyone wants to share anything. Alejandro, turn on your mic.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I just wanted to say thank you all, the organizers, and Susana, for reminding everyone. I think that so many of us become professionals from certain communities. The world feeds into casting one as like an exemplar, or like an aspirational figure. And I think like you and other folks who presented today reminded us that, like, yeah, we don't need to build like cadres of just professionals, right? Like if folks want to do certain things, that's great, right? But like the point is to like spread out as much as possible, and kind of build towards those worlds that we want, and crowd out the worlds that we don't. And I just appreciated that throughout the day from folks who were intentional in saying that that this property is not owned by any, like, this intellectual property is not owned by anyone necessarily, right? And that the point is to scatter our seeds around so that we can continue to grow together. And I really, I think that's important, and thank you for reminding us of that.
Thank you, Alejandro. And, for me, something that, really stood out from just everyone who has shared today is this reminding us of our humanity, right? And how, these systems that are in place have stripped us from that humanity and from really just being connected to like a natural human experience, in this earth. And, at the same time, despite all these things that are in place, all these, systemic and like the structural racism that we have to live in, we are creating opportunities and experiences outside of that with all the work that we're doing. And many of us are like weaving in and out of these systems, right? And these worlds, the many worlds that we're living in and creating in, and saying, hey, like, we don't want to be a part of this anymore. We're going to create something more sustainable for us. And I really admire that, all of us here are doing that. And what you said, Susana, a lot of the things that you shared resonated with me personally, working in the school setting. And, one of the things that was really shocking for me was that early in my experience, doing mental health in schools, I learned that, we're required to call the police for wellness checks. And yeah, it's really, really hard for me to just navigate that, but I just do my best to be present, in that space, and to continue honoring my own values, and to allow myself to be who I am, and to really practice those things despite, these very just contradicting values that are in this system that is supposed to promote wellness, right, in our youth. So I just want to say thank you to everyone that's here today. And I don't know, Lucha, if you want to add anything.
Yes, thank you so much for everyone that's been here for the entire session of our program. Thank you. I did see a hand go up. I think Alfred, I don't know if you're still here. You had your hand raised. I don't know if you wanted to chime in here.
Very quickly, I don't want to take up too much of the time. I just want to say thank you, and I'm really happy and relieved to attend this event. I didn't know what to expect from it, but I think it was nothing but medicine, nothing but reflection. And I recently just started to express myself about this pain and anger that I've been holding on to for so long. And I always thought I was a warrior, but like we also get wounded, and like I said in Spanish, no debemos aguantar, también debemos llorar para poder volar. Right? Sometimes we gotta be vulnerable and tap into the. I just had a daughter. We welcomed our daughter last week, and I feel like it's really allowing me to be vulnerable and like tap into my soft side and be gentle with myself. That way I can be gentle with my baby girl. So thank you all for all that. It's all medicine, and I'm taking it and sharing it as well. And gracias. Muchas gracias.
Thank you for that, Alfred. Would anyone else like to chime in before I start wrapping things up here? Anyone else want to unmute themselves? All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen really briefly. And thanking you all for joining us. I also want to just remind everyone, I know it's been a long day, but it's been a good day too. We do have more programming prepared. There's one more event that's coming up before the end of the year, and it is actually our last educational encuentro, which is on educational sovereignty, the last week of November. And so I invite you to save the date and look out for more information about that as we get closer to the date. And then we also have more programming prepared for next year. So thank you everyone for joining us. All of the information, the slides, the resources that were shared by the presenters is in the Google folder. I recommend that you put a bookmark on it because it's a living archive of what we prepared for you today, but also we'll continue to add stuff to there, like the recording for today's session.